Hi, and welcome to April's Pick a Pile. My name is Angelina, and I am your host. Today we are doing a 3-reading Pick a Pile for, yep, that's right, April predictions. Pile number 1 is, of course, amethyst. Pile number 2 is red tiger's eye, and pile number 3 is blue calcite. If you like this video, please like and comment and subscribe. I would really appreciate the interaction with this video and my channel. I am lucky enough to have 174 subscribers, but I'm looking for 174,000 subscribers, and you are part of that. So thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see what your readings hold. Bye! The piles for April predictions pick a pile is pile number 1, amethyst, pile number 2, red tiger's eye, pile number 3, blue calcite. So go ahead and pick a pile, and I will see you back at your pile. Hi, and welcome to pile number 1. Pile number 1 is sponsored by Amethyst, and if this is your pile, welcome, because pile number 1 is sponsored by Amethyst, and today we have a reading for pile number 1, and it's sponsored by Amethyst. So let's look at our cards. First, we have the 7 of Swords. Then we have the 7 of Wands. Then we have the 2 of Pentacles. Then we have the Hermit. Then we have the 4 of Pentacles. It's like we're shining, we're alive. Then we have the Page of Cups. The Ace of Cups. And the 8 of Swords. So right off the bat, I want to say that it's very apparent that April is a time where you are learning a lesson that you needed to learn again because you haven't quite internalized what this lesson means for you. And it's about a person. It's not specifically a romantic entanglement. It almost feels like someone blowing in and blowing out of your life. And it's like really quick, and the quickness of the toxicity and the buildup of the way you're feeling and how that's playing out in the dynamic, and then like the response that you get back from that person is what enables you to learn that lesson very quickly. So let's start with this card, the Ace of Cups. It can be in reference to a new relationship or a new companion, or new creativity, you know, the overflowing of things. In this specific reading, I am seeing that it is involving a person. And it wasn't something that you had even really been thinking about, but the opportunity to be entangled with them popped up, and they seemed very familiar, but in a way that was like shiny and new. And because the situation was shiny and new, but the behaviors were old behaviors that felt very familiar. So it was a shiny new person, but it was the same behaviors that you've always found yourself entangled in. So I want to talk about the 7s and the 8, right? So the 7 of Swords and the 7 of Wands and the 8 of Swords. These are all different expressions of the stages of the relationship that you all are going to get into. This card is in reference to being treacherous and deceitful, and I'm getting the vibe of like So like swords are air and they're about the mind, and I'm getting the vibe that the way that I want to describe this is so weird. That it's like a calling whisper that's like, hey, remember how you used to love this? Remember how this is what you wanted? You wanted the love bombing. You wanted the thrill of the toxicity. You wanted the lying and the arguing and the deception and the inability to trust someone. You wanted it. Well, that's where we are. And it's just like, it's a faint whisper, because on the front end, right, on the front end of this card, you are feeling the joy, the enlivening words are like giving you desire and excitement and passion, but it isn't true. There's a part of you that is hearing this other whisper that's like, hey, haven't you done this before? And if so, why are you doing it again? So it's like two sides, right? It's two sides, treachery and deceit from the person, and then the other whispering saying, hey, don't you recognize this treachery and deceit? And haven't you already done this before? And like, why are we doing it? Because didn't you decide based on the last entanglement that you got yourself in that this wasn't the kind of relationship that you wanted to be in anymore? So why are we doing it? That's what this is. That's what this is. That's where we are with this. And it's like you're feeling attacked because the other person is saying that you're attacking them when you really aren't. And it's definitely like a he said, she said kind of thing, even if that's not the gender of the people that we're talking about in this reading. So your word against their word. And it's like, how can I be sure that I'm not terrible? Because every time I do this, I find out that I'm terrible and I feel like I'm being attacked, but maybe I'm the one attacking them and they really are the victim, right? It's like, it's that crazy making behavior that love bombing is. It's that crazy making behavior that gaslighting is. It's that crazy making behavior pattern that you're super familiar with. And I'm wondering if this is something that you grew up with in the past, or if you unintentionally got into a relationship like this when you were younger, and so that impression on you is now left an imprint in like your energetic field in your aura that is able to like be sussed out by other energy that's looking to take advantage of the kind, sweet, loving person that you are, right? So you're both up on the hill, and you're both feeling like you're being attacked, but actually only one of you is doing the attacking, and it's the person that you got yourself involved in. But it's really hard for you to maintain your identity when you're in a situation where this is constantly the energy that you're being faced with, right? Right. So that's where we come to this, right? That is where we come to the Eight of Swords. Look at this person, okay? Look at how entangled they are. They're trapped in this row of swords. They can't see. Their body is bound. They're standing there. They're blind. You know, they can't see the forest for the trees, right? And this card can often relate to somebody who believes that they are the victim, right? And unfortunately, no matter what relationship we are in, No matter if we were the abuser or we were abused, we have to take responsibility for the role that we had in the relationship. How did you end up there? Why did you end up there? How can I take responsibility for this? What can I do to make myself no longer a victim of these circumstances, right? How can I decide that this isn't the kind of bullshit that I want to continue to roll around in, right? What is it that I'm doing that makes me susceptible to this bad behavior, right? Is it my self-esteem? Is it my lack of worthiness? Is it the way that I see people who are like this? What is it? Is it the way I was raised? Is it how my parents treated each other? Like where did I get the idea that it was okay that I could be treated like this and that I would accept this behavior? Is it my inability to set boundaries? Am I unable to see what my own values are? Do I even know if I know what boundaries are? Do I even understand? What is my attachment style? How do I relate to people? Do I accept this kind of thing in my relationships, my like platonic relationships, or am I repeating this pattern in my platonic relationships as well as my romantic relationships? Like, it's so many layers, and not being able to like suss out what your role is in each one of those ways is what is preventing you from like seeing how this behavior has like helicoptered around and gotten you stuck in all of these situations. So like, yes, okay, sure, you have been the victim, but also like, let's take responsibility for it and decide that we don't want to do this shit anymore. So let's get into how the rest of this reading plays into you deciding to change your mind. So, a lot of what I was just talking about is in the mind, right? And then the flip side of that is this Hermit card, okay? Bro is on a journey. He's looking for himself, okay? He is both the lantern that he's holding and the light that he's seeking on the path, right? He is learning to be self-actualized, understand the world, understand his role in the world, understand his purpose, decide who he wants to be, how he wants to be, where he wants to be, and like what to do with the answers to all of those questions. So this is this journey that this relationship is taking you on in April. Maybe it's like the final conclusion of this relationship. Maybe this is something that has already started and now it's ending. And this is like the final time that you have to go through this lesson. The universe is like, hey, like once you got this, you don't have to do this anymore. This is where you need to be focusing your energy. Like saying to yourself, all right, person, I'm not gonna do the relationships anymore. I'm not gonna seek something romantic because I'm realizing I'm not actually healthy enough to deal with those things. So that is where this is going to come into. You need to both be the lantern and seek the lantern. And boy, I hope that makes sense, because it makes sense to me. So that is where I am seeing this Two of Pentacles, right? Pentacles is usually about like earthly possessions, but in this reading, this card is speaking to like the two different priorities and balancing yourself, right? And understanding like, who am I going to be? What do I want to do? And how will I make that come true? Okay, so trying to find your identity and trying to express your identity, right? Those are going to be the two different priorities. And it's going to be a little bit of a rocky ride, because people are used to you being a specific way at a specific time, but that doesn't mean that you can't find yourself and recognize that along the way there's the potential for some loss of people that you've known if they don't really get the true you, right? Because ultimately, additionally, right, when we find ourselves, there are people who don't appreciate that we can't be taken advantage of anymore, and that we have a strong conviction in who we are, and that we understand what we want, and that we have these boundaries, we have these values, and we want to be in reciprocal relationships where those things are respected. So that is going to be developed in you, that is going to be asserted in you, and it's going to take time. It isn't going to happen right away, but you're going to be able to understand how to be in a way that's much more effective in serving your life and the kind of relationships that you want, both platonically and romantically. So when I see this Four of Pentacles, what you're holding to your chest here is yourself. right? Sort of becoming more of the observer rather than the actor in things. Noticing how you behave in situations, noticing how your friends behave, noticing the kind of attention people give you, like strangers, or like if you were on the apps, which I don't really recommend at this time considering the transition that you're going through. Those are the things that I really feel like are going to determine how you play the rest of your cards, right? You need to be a little more buttoned up and stuck in this route of self-examination rather than being the social butterfly, right? Which is really where this like buttoned up sort of demeanor is with this dude, because he's like, I'm gonna hold my money, I'm gonna plan for the long-term commitment, and I'm gonna make it happen. So that can be in reference to many things. It can be in reference to money, time, space, whatever it is. And it is in this case towards your relationships. So lastly, before we get into your oracle cards, there is this Page of Cups fellow, and I really like the fish coming out of the card. I mean, of the cup. It's super cute. Like, this is one of my favorite page designs. He is developing all of the things that we want to develop when we see this Ace of Cups, right? So like, he is developing intuition, clarity, understanding. I wanted to say the word clairvoyance, and so maybe that is part of like your ability to suss out things and understand your role and dynamic and how other people treat you in developing your clairs. Maybe you have some little special superpowers as a human. I don't know. You don't know. I feel like the cups are a very like spiritual suit. So yeah, what I'm saying is like your mind holds both the power to make and break you in this situation. The ability to understand, or the ability to ignore, the ability to continue on the path, or the ability to ignore the path, the ability to use your intuition and clarity to suss out the path, the ability to use your intuition and clarity to know when you should stay home. So the Hermit as well, where are you, buddy? The Hermit as well is like another way to access the clarity and intuition of this Cups card, because he is all about, right, the stillness, the quietness, the journey to the journey, the journey to the center of McGurk, right? If you get that reference, I appreciate it. If you don't, it's fine. That is these two things sort of coalescing to bring you the final result, right? Which is that you've got it. I have every faith in the world that you're gonna get through this sort of little hiccup, and that this is a very formative time for you, and that formative time will, of course, allow you to become a better version of yourself on the road to the best version of yourself, right? The integration of the many versions of who you've been throughout time, as well as integrating the shadow parts of yourself so that you can become a whole being, so that you can express yourself authentically in a way that is respected and understood by those who want to respect and understand you, right? Okay, so let's get into the oracle cards. I use the Tarot deck. We have the Woodpecker with Initiative. I have the Octopus with Conformity. I have the Pig with Indulgence. And I have the Peacock with Confidence. We're gonna start with the Pig. Excuse me. Okay. For sure. Okay. The Pig tells us not to sweat the small stuff. Indulge in the idea that not everything is worth your concern. The Pig can't sweat, at least not well, and as a result, It doesn't do so well in extreme climates. This card can show up in your reading when you are due for a spa day because your day-to-day life is filled with stress and anxiety. What is overwhelming you and leading you to desire to cut loose? At some point, a stiff cocktail and a bubble bath won't be an adequate band-aid for an unhappy routine. If you find yourself needing to let off steam every night, consider that you may need to make some adjustments to reduce stress permanently. Find enjoyment in everyday life, so the indulgence is a rare treat instead of a necessary reinforcement against dissatisfaction. Take a proactive approach and keep your life in balance to avoid tarnishing your indulgence by taking them to the extreme. I think a lot of times when it comes to something like this, if we have a lot of healing to do from abuse that we've sustained, one way to sort of dampen our emotions is to ignore our reality by doing things like becoming a workaholic or exercising too much or eating too much or drinking too much or smoking too much or just using any form of pleasure to get rid of our negative emotions. But eventually that pleasure, of course, right, doesn't allow us to feel any pleasure because it becomes a monotonous routine, and what was once something that brought you joy is now just something you do to get through it, right? It's like crap. Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. It's like a coping mechanism that becomes part of a daily habit and is no longer a coping mechanism. It's just something that you do and you're finding that it doesn't help you cope at all. And that's, for some reason, the act of doing the coping mechanism is just as stressful. I feel like that's probably what's happening here in reference to how long it's taken pile number one to recognize, like, what is it that is plaguing me and how do I deal with it. And like, it sucks a lot to heal. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say it doesn't suck. It sucks a lot to heal. It hurts. Understanding who you are and the way you've been hurt and like accepting that and working through it and knowing that the people in your life should have done better for you, it really sucks. And I know that from personal experience. So I'm there with you, person in pile number one, and I totally get it. Let's look at this octopus next. And the octopus is with conformity. The octopus can also appear when you are between a rock and a hard place. You may feel stuck, trapped, or suffocated. This sea creature is known for its impressive ability to wedge and stuff itself into shockingly unaccommodating places. When trapped, the octopus will find any opening to escape through. Perhaps it is necessary in your life at this moment to sit tight. If you need to blend in or go by the book, reflect on if this is a helpful strategy. It may be. Making waves can sometimes cause you to capsize. Still, it is equally important to know when claustrophobia is setting in. If you are feeling constrained, make moves to open things up around yourself before you resort to trying to slip away. Time outside in wide open spaces, a day alone, or spent on a fun, low-pressure creative activity could offer relief. Those with the octopus as a guide must be especially careful of what they are absorbing. The octopus has several hundred strong suction cups located on the underside of their body that they use to conform to their surroundings. These little cups aren't just useful in moving around, they also help it smell and taste. The smart guide hints at the ability to quickly adapt and absorb. However, it also urges you to be careful of taking on assimilation too far. You may be good at adhering to expectations and appeasing others. However, be sure that you aren't just performing a well-choreographed dance for an audience that isn't paying attention. Right. Who are you, pile number one? Who are you? Who do you want to be? Who have you been? What traits of who you've been are actually part of who you are, and what traits of who you've been is just the performance of who you think everyone else wants you to be, and how has that impacted your relationships, both romantically and platonically, dude. Both ways. All right, let's look at this woodpecker. Nope, that's a wood mouse. We're looking at a woodpecker, thank you. The woodpecker is with initiative. Ooh, the woodpecker starts knocking when there is something you are supposed to be doing, but you are avoiding it. What happened to your initiative? The woodpecker's food is often hiding inside trees, but that doesn't stop these birds from getting what they want. They use their powerful beaks to drill into the tree bark, meeting their prey on home turf. It's time for you to use the same initiative in your life. This bird enters your reading when answers and abundance lie before you, but you will not be carried to them. Feeling unmotivated and the first step toward pushing yourself to stop waiting and start doing. When you work up a little initiative, you will find that what felt like an impossible task quickly picks up speed. Once the woodpecker gets going, he can peck somewhere around 12,000 times each day. Talk about busy. If you feel like you're stuck in quicksand and that you've come to a screeching halt, the woodpecker reminds you that once you get started, it will feel a lot easier. If you are worried that you are in the wrong place, this bird is an encouragement that you are where you are supposed to be. It's just a matter of taking the next step. If you are sitting around and expecting things to start happening, they won't. It's all up to you. The beauty is that when you show up early, you get first dibs. And when you use your initiative, you can make the situation into whatever you'd like it to be. Now that's nice, right? That's so nice. That means you hold all the cards, that you hold all the power, right? It's up to you to decide that now is the time to be different, to become different, to stay, I don't want to say to stay different, because here's the thing, right? That puts a lot of pressure on like who we're going to be, like how we're going to heal and how that healing like looks like, but we are only human, which means that you will continue to make mistakes, and that those mistakes teach you like where you still need to work on yourself, and that's like totally normal, totally awesome, totally fine. And sorry about what I said. Like you're not going to put pressure on yourself. Like the whole point in healing is to continue to make mistakes so that you understand what you need in order to continue to heal, right? Okay. Peacock with confidence. The peacock that looks bold and confident wasn't born with its magnificent feathers on display. These birds don't grow their tail feathers until several years old. Developing confidence is a lifelong process, and no matter where you are on that journey, there's always work to be done. No one will buy a product that not even the salesman wants. The peacock asks you to believe in yourself. If you are in a period of self-doubt, it's time to start acknowledging your worth. You are being pushed to release negative perceptions about yourself and be proud of who you are. There is something in your life waiting for you to believe you are worthy, and no one can convince you but you. Absolutely. Absolutely, pile number one. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. This has been pile number one with the amethyst. Please leave a comment below about what you enjoyed, about what spoke to you. Like my video, please, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. That's been all for pile number one. I'm your Authenticity Witch. Peace. Hi, and welcome to pile number two. Pile number two is this red tiger's eye. "16 seconds on a crystal." Let's get into what our cards are. We have the Knight of Swords, the Three of Swords, the Fool, the Lovers, Temperance, the High Priestess, and now the Lovers. Okay, so wild, right? Four of what I would argue to be some of the most transformative, integrative, major arcana cards here in your reading. Things that speak to blending the duality of both sides of yourself into one being. Like April feels like for pile number two that you are going to be um finally being awakened to the understanding that there's more to your life and life here on earth than you could have possibly understood previously. And within that, it's going to make you feel um, kind of sad about things in a mournful way because I don't think you were expecting to know this spiritual revolutionary answer. Not to just trail off vaguely. Um, so with the Knight of Swords, he's moving so fast that the information and the quick action of delivery of that information, like right, swords are our mind, is so swift that it's going to take you by storm. It's gonna bowl you over. It's gonna be so quick. It's almost like when you do mushrooms or some sort of other psychedelic, and you finally reach this moment of clarity and understanding about the connectedness of human existence and um, outer space, and how everything is just math. Anyways, so quick and unexpected and jarring, right? But the reason I said that there would be some misery about it, some mourning about it, about you thinking that things are trivial, like even though this realization for you is supposed to be um enlightening and joyful, it has gotten you feeling a little bit shitty, like your relationships don't matter as much and the way that you interact in the world doesn't matter as much, like taking on a bit of nihilism instead of a little bit of joy in the privilege that you're here and that you deserve to be here and that your role here is very important and that you've been blessed with this advantage to be here, and like not everybody is blessed with that ability to be here and you are. And instead of that recognition, right, it's more like the the viewing of all of the shit that's happening, the deterioration of the American nation under our president, the genocide that's happening, the destruction of the natural resources, the violence and mayhem, like wondering to yourself, why was it me? Why did I come back here at this time? Who decided that I should be here? Well, it was you. You decided that. You decided that you should be here. And I also feel like that recognition for yourself has been really fucking difficult to deal with because you don't you didn't want to be here during this, but you are here. And so now it's like, well, how do I accept that I both made that choice and that I want to be here and that I will be here and that I will live here and that I will accept every part of the shit and every part of the not shit, right? It's a big thing to take into our heart, and I think it's an adjustment, and maybe you weren't quite ready to understand, and it was like the awakening of, for example, the kundalini energy that you weren't ready to integrate, and so it's made you feel fucking topsy-turvy. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't know. In fact, it means that you should know what you've known for a long time now, and that for whatever reason, I would say It's just been taking too long for you to get there, and now's the time for you to get there and understand. And so this awakening is coming at a very important, specific time for you. So I want to talk about these three cards because they're all about balance, but in very different ways. So she is about the duality of light and dark and the balancing of both sides of the world and ourselves together in order to create one specific human being. It's also about intuition, it's also about clarity, it's about like divine wisdom and understanding and being able to like um look above everything and understand the roles of things and the whys and the how of things, from being able to embody that like higher self understanding and look at the lens of the world through this like activated root chakra situation, sorry, crown chakra situation, and being able to understand like this is my role, this is those roles, but not in a pessimistic way. And that's where we sort of need to move you out of is understanding that like there isn't anything pessimistic about being here for a specific reason, on the playground that is Earth, right? Your relationships still matter, the people you love still matter, the things you do still matters, even if it is sort of like prescribed and like your lessons are prescribed, right? We all chose to be here for a reason, and so waking up to that reason can sometimes be pretty crazy and painful. And I think that's where you are now. So the Lovers, right, is supposed to be about, it can be about the path that you take, choosing between one place or another place. It can also be about finding literal love. It can also be about duality again, and compassion and understanding and truth and beauty and love. And like all of those things, I feel like it's almost like um, a lesson that needs to be integrated in you, you know, like to learn to be loved and love in return, right? That's the greatest gift of all. And like I just feel like you're really struggling with that right now, because of the way that this information has been so abruptly presented to you. But the objective here is to integrate both of those things for yourself. Um, Still loving and honoring humanity, even though there's so much bullshit. And like I was explaining to a client yesterday, there are these two very distinct pathways on Earth that we're experiencing right now, where one is the side of light and one is the side of dark. And it is everybody's choice to decide what reality they would like to integrate themselves into. And I think that maybe you also weren't ready to hear that information. And that's part of this understanding with choosing what path you want to be on, choosing how you want to express your soul identity, and making that place for yourself, that path for yourself, so that you can express yourself to others the way you want to, and also be seen for the soul that you are, and not for the soul that you aren't, for lack of a better way to explain that, right? And just like the High Priestess is all about this magic in the universe, so is Temperance, and the duality of it all, and integrating and understanding the role that we have in this life, and balancing how we act, and the things that we take on. And so it's very much, I mean, this is very like choice laden for you, but I also think that you don't really have a choice to turn off what it is that you now know about the universe and your role in this place. And I think that you should follow the fool's advice and really decide to see life in this new grand way, um, this spectacular way where you have a divined role in the universe, and that you are special, and that you've been chosen, and that the monotony of everyday life is like just it's just like what it is, and you don't have to like fret about it or be weird about it or like over analyze about it. It's like once you have figured out what it is you believe in this role, in this new awakening, that things will be very joyful and flowing and easy and content and just like regular in this way, because the weight of everything isn't going to be strangling you anymore. It's all going to make sense in a larger scheme, like in the larger picture. Boy, I hope I'm explaining this well. And so understanding forgiveness and compassion, and also like not getting too full of yourself about everything, like just because you're here by choice, and you're special doesn't mean other people aren't special. And so holding space for that, even though people are out there acting a fool, but not in like the way of the fool card, but like hurting other people and being douchebags. So let's look at your oracle cards from the tarot deck. We have the Black Swan with love. We have the Manatee with compassion. We have the Crocodile with repression. We have Trust with the Komodo dragon. And we have Growth with the Giraffe. Let's start with the Giraffe. Okay. The giraffe's long neck shows us what is possible when we focus on personal growth. Their long, intriguing necks are a powerful symbol of the elevation of our minds. The expansion of the head away from the body represents idealistic vision and detaching from what is weighing you down. Now is an opportune time to focus on your personal development. This animal guide tells you that your current path requires you to direct your attention inward. This guide comes to show who are natural givers and helpers that aspire to lift others up, often before reaching high themselves. When you choose to focus on growing yourself into the best version of yourself you can be, you will be better equipped to support and guide others. Remember that you can't fill a glass with an empty pitcher. Growth is not linear. Like vines, we grow through, around, and beneath things. The giraffe's beautiful coat is one of a kind, every one unique. Your journey is yours alone. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in thinking you are climbing a ladder where the goal is to skip over others in your way. The giraffe doesn't sit around comparing spots, and neither do we. We love all these animals and their unique coats just the same. As you grow, think of it as a process, not a competition. Each day, as you work harder to grow and evolve, try to hone in on your own practice a little bit more. There is no winning or losing when you are challenging yourself instead of others. Absolutely. I don't think anything needs to be said about that. That is what it is. All right, next let's blah, blah, blah. Next, let's look at the Black Swan with love. The black swan represents the emergence of love in your life. This waterfowl may hint at matters of romance. It calls on you to consider more holistically who, what, and how you love and accept love. The black swan reminds you that love is a rarity to be nurtured and tended to. When you find someone or something that you care for, don't waste time treading water. This social bird loves company. When you find the one, the two pair up and spend their lives together. We are attracted to what we think we deserve. The black swan asks you to start by nurturing a love for yourself. When you can float through the waters on your own, you will be better prepared to dive in when the right job, person, or opportunity, etc., comes along. All right, now let's look at the Komodo. Oops. Kookaburra. Oops. It would help if I could read. Just I can't read. I've just memorized what the words say. That's funny. No offense to those who may not be able to read. Okay, so the Komodo with trust. Okay. While the Komodo is ubiquitous, it is found only on 5 small Indonesian islands. Their specific habitat provides them with intense heat that they crave. This card reminds you that trust is hard to find and hard to keep, but it exists. This card asks you to be decisive and selective about where you decide to place trust in your life. Not everyone deserves the keys to your kingdom. Whether it is an existing relationship or a new one, the ability to surrender to trust is a pivotal step toward satisfying connections. Whether romantic or platonic, cultivating the ability to love and care freely without restraint or suspicion is a challenging but vital step. If you trust someone, treasure that. If trust is lacking, consider if the source is someone or something else, or if it's you. So, this relationship that you're cultivating is the one with the universe and your role within it. And the decision about trust and love isn't about a specific person, but it's about whether or not you can accept what you have learned on this pivotal lesson into being truth, into understanding the dynamics of that relationship, into understanding that despite the hardships and the unfairness and the bullshit in the world, that like this is what it is for a specific reason, and that you trust that it is happening in the way that it is supposed to for your highest good and the highest good of the people around you, right? And it can be really hard to remember that because there is a lot of shit, there is a lot of misery, there is a lot of heartbreak, there is a lot of just absolute terrible nonsense that is happening that can break us down. And it will be okay, man. It'll be okay. I don't know what else to say other than it will be okay. And you will come to know that it will be okay, in time. Don't pressure yourself about this. Just accept where you are and accept how far you want to go, how far you're coming, like just accept the journey for what it is. The manatee with compassion, okay? Perhaps the most important word there is, compassion, is not just essential, but it is the very breath of life. It is what lives at the center of everything. The manatee is a guide for compassion because it is an expert at the first steps, slowing down and backing up. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I can't read. The manatee is a guide for compassion because it is an expert in the first steps, slowing down and stepping back. While the manatee could move faster, it prefers to simply cruise through ocean waters. This card is a sign that you need to take your foot off the gas and look around at where you are. Compassion occurs in simply being present and aware, both for yourself and others. When you come to a stop, you might see that you have not been fully present. You need to take the extra time now and experience compassion, even when it's challenging. Being compassionate often requires being uncomfortable. From your comfort zone, you cannot stand by another in suffering. But why would one sit through a pain that isn't theirs? The manatee can move through both fresh and salt water, flexible enough to adapt to either. You two are being called to adapt compassionately to emotional situations. The manatee is a sign that you may be moving in murky waters. Whether it is yourself or another, proceed with love and empathy. Sitting next to a crying friend, for instance, can be difficult. We don't want to see someone else hurt. It's much easier to brush past the pain and change the subject. But sitting in compassion is a symbiotic process, and being there for another, you are showing up for yourself most of all. Absolutely. Do you understand what this is trying to teach you? I know it's my job to tell you, but I think that the picture is pretty clear. You have a long way to go to accept and understand, but I don't think you can't get there. The last card we want to talk about is the crocodile with repression. Just as the crocodile shifts beneath the water, and I just want to say all of these, the manatee, the crocodile, the fucking swan, that's all about emotions, right? The watery emotions, the depth of emotions, and I think that you just have a lot of emotions to process. And I don't know if there is particularly maybe a loss that was centered around this for you, where you lost somebody that you love and it has made you question your existence in the universe or their existence in the universe, where they come from, where they go, all of those things. But that could be part of the emotions that need to be processed in regard to this for some of you. Um, just as the crocodile shifts beneath the water, giving itself away with only penetrating eyes, this card points to a stealthy emergence of what once lay deep within. Something once sedentary is rising to the surface. You may feel it already, or perhaps the issue you face is be an unseen enemy startling you from behind. Trying to prevent being blindsided by repressed energy. You are being asked to do your emotional homework. When you take on the task of diving deep into your own psyche, you negate the potential for destructive thoughts and emotions to catch you off guard. What could you be missing? Try to take off any blinders you may be wearing, as it is likely something lurking around the corner of your mind. Your goal is to bring things to the surface, not to wade in the mud. While submerging yourself in deep emotions and thoughts is a necessary step, be wary not to lose sight of yourself and reality. The crocodile can't breathe underwater and must come up to the surface for air. If they linger underwater too long, they will drown. Does that also make sense? I just feel like there's a lot of crying associated with this pile, a lot of grief and misery associated with this pile. And through the process of grieving this loss, and it's almost like the loss of innocence in a way, which could also be speaking towards the role of the fool in this reading. Um, you will learn more about what you believe in this life for yourself, and understanding that more will help you in your life, and I really want you to get there. So if you need to go to grief counseling, or you need to cry and scream, or you need to depend on others right now, take all of that, all of your behavior, all of the things that you are experiencing and that you love and need help through or have come to understand. Take it all day by day, experience it moment by moment. Maybe start a grief journal somewhere that you can process your emotions without judgment and revisit them every couple of days. See how you're feeling, see how you relate to those statements, um, so that you can sort of logically process the emotional experience that you're having, because on paper is maybe the only place it makes sense, and potentially when you come to talk about it, you're unable to really express what it is that's plaguing you, because so many things have been called into question. But I do feel like this is going to be a really beautiful, transformative time for you, and that the loss, whatever that means, is going to be something that really helps you understand the world. And I don't know if some of you have a career where you work closely with death, but I feel like there is an angle about death in this deck. Whether it was somebody that you lost, experiencing the emotions of others, like maybe you're an empath. But there's something about your connection with death and the way that it drives your growth and compassion and love for yourself and others around you that's really going to inform this time. Like maybe you're a doctor dealing with something that is really has a poor survival rate, or you're seeing the results of genocide, something to that extent, and it's really hurting you because how could this world accept those things? And it's like a crisis of faith, but in a really good way, um, because these are the things that you've always needed to figure out, that enable you to really hone in on who you are and what you believe and how that's going to um, incorporate into the rest of your life. Um, and I think that the level of compassion you have for humanity is part of the issue. And I'm not going to say issue specifically, but part of one of the reasons why there is so much hurt and misery in the background of this reading, even though on the surface it looks like a really exciting and joyful time for you. So I think that's all I have for pile number 2. Please comment and let me know what you got out of this reading. I'd be very curious to know. Um, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. My name is Angelina, and I'm your Authenticity Witch. Hi, everyone, and welcome to pile number 3. Pile number 3 is the blue calcite. Hello and welcome. Let's get into your reading. We have the Six of Swords, the Knight of Pentacles, the Three of Wands, the Two of Wands, the Eight of Swords, the Moon, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Ten of Swords. So things are looking painful, a long journey, particularly about your mind. Hold on. So, fears, illusions, a way of thinking, all of these things are being called into question in April for you. Almost as if a situation or potentially a thought pattern has come up so often that you have decided to heal it. Now, there appears to have been an opportunity coming up for you where there is a choice to be made, a direction to take, and then through that, there's the direct action and journey to go on. So it's like step 1, step 2, where you're planning and then taking the action to move forward. And from what I can see, it's like, oh, transformative, but also really goddamn painful. I think for some of you, you may meet somebody. Oh, I just broke this calcite in half. My bad. Sorry, buddy. You may meet somebody who will help you on this transition, or it's almost like a glimpse into another perspective that shows you you don't have to believe everything that your mind is telling you. Um, let's talk about this Knight of Pentacles card. Somebody who is very formulaic, conservative, on the slow path to producing success in the area that they choose. And Pentacles, of course, is typically about tactile, tangible senses of security. Um, however, though, the shift, the shift that's occurring is weird. Like, so there's been, okay, so life. The Wheel of Fortune, right, can either be like one of two things, right? The smiling of favor upon us, or no longer the smile of favoring upon us. And I'm wondering, because you are actually being plagued by so many things in your thoughts, that you are being given a situation to deal with that isn't great. It's not great, doesn't seem great. The moon is showing up one, two, three times in this card, both visually and literally, in this Knight of Pentacles card, in the moon card, and then also in the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune also has that duality aspect of the sun and moon, but also the use of the wisdom. So, from the owl. Did you get that it was from the owl? So it's like, it's kind of like all of your worst fears about insecurity are coming to a head right now. Like, you're battling through a really tumultuous experience, or you're witnessing somebody go through that experience, and because of that, you are now thinking about what it would be like for you to deal with that experience. Regardless of what one, like, what, if it was one thing or the other thing, it's a very transformative time for you. The shedding of a layer, moving from one side of your thoughts to the other, like being able to um, discern and recognize that there is fear in your heart instead of logic, it is definitely one aspect of it, because the other is that you're being plagued by thoughts and fears and illusions that are created solely by the inability to be in the present moment. Like, these thoughts are all about, like, what if this were to come true? What if I were to lose all my money? What if I were to lose this relationship? What if? And it's centering around something that feels like cataclysmic for you, something that is really really stable, something that has been stable, something that you don't want to lose, something that you hope will remain stable. But that isn't necessarily going to help you at this time, because this other perspective has allowed you to see that maybe things aren't as they seem. Like, there's still a hidden aspect of this situation that has yet to come forward. So, um, what does that mean for you? Who are you going to be in the end? How can you, I guess, use your negative thoughts that you're like literally being plagued by in order to better yourself? Um, so I think, as well as the moon, right, is also like helping informing your fears and desires when it your fears, um and like what would happen if you if your fears came true. It's also giving you the ability to understand some of these things are literally fears, and some of these things are foreshadowing. So I think this like journey and planning that you're having to go through is really about understanding what it is you need to shed, and figuring out what one of your thoughts are fact and what one of your thoughts are illusion, because there's too many of them, and not being able to tell which thing is actually true is paralyzing you in this state of both like unrest and inability to move forward, like losing sleep at night, but also knowing that you need to make a plan, but you're not really sure how to make the plan because there are absolutely way too many fucking things going on in your mind. um so, like, refinement is absolutely the key, and what I like about this Knight of Pentacles showing up is how like slow and methodical this character is, how conservative and um logical they are. So, um I don't like to say that you should like be worried about like logicking out your emotions, right? Because sometimes emotions are just emotions, but additionally, like, emotions are not fact. So if you're in this place where you're allowing your emotions to dictate the way you behave every day and how you deal with situations, then you probably aren't doing it in a way that's serving you and serving the others around you. So that's what's cool about the Six of Swords card, because the ability to leave a version of yourself in the past and move forward into this new version of yourself is going to be something that's really important for the rest of your life. Really being charged with understanding how to move and who to be and what you want to be. Um, okay, so in regard to me saying that reacting based on your emotions isn't necessarily serving yourself or others, is important in this reading, because part of this Wheel of Fortune card is the idea of what goes around comes around. So I'm wondering if for some of you, you are now receiving the treatment that you yourself had been giving, reaping what you sow sort of situation. Um, and now that that is happening, what is being called into question is whether or not you're actually a good person. Because probably there has been a reaction from trauma or a defense mechanism reaction that has made it seem like you're a piece of trash, but the sarcasm and the cynicism and the keeping people at arm's length has been just to prevent yourself from being hurt and upset. And what it's actually doing is making you more hurt and upset. So, the choice and the journey and the decision of moving forward that you're going on is like, excuse me, do you want to design your life? Do you want to have a picture of your life? And what is that picture? And what can you do to make that picture come true for yourself? What sort of like manifesting action is it that you can do in order to shift your reality, right, with this wheel of fortune, into making that reality come true? How can you align your mind with your actions, excuse me, and your actions with your mind? Um, those two things sort of dictate each other. And if we're allowing our thoughts and emotions to dictate how we act, then we're not really like living. We're just reacting, right? And we would love to see you at a place where your past wounds are not dictating the way that you're acting now, because those situations are no longer in your life, and that um, it's time to shed that version of yourself and honor it for who you were, and what you received, and how being that person did protect you and serve you at one point in time, but now those mechanisms are hindering you from developing your life in a wholesome, loving way, something that you really deserve and something that I think you really desire. And I feel like part of the fear, and part of the illusion of your thoughts, right? Part of that is like, I'm not sure if I desire it. I'm not sure if I'll get it. I'm not sure if I'm good enough for it. I'm not sure if I will receive any of the things I desire, because it's sort of like I've been this person, and this person is not my reality of who I am, and people haven't liked this version of me. So what really guarantees that they'll like this other version of me? And so there's probably fear in the transition from one place to a next. However, I think that being able to take the responsibility of who you've been and who you want to be, and work on bridging the gap between those two identities will really serve you in the future, because that's where you're going to find like your ride or die friends and the people who love you and want to stand by you no matter what. Um, there is a potential that this Knight of Pentacles character also represents a sort of like mentor or therapist or friend that you can rely on and use in order to help you process these things and move forward, and remind you of how beautiful and lovely you are. Because, I mean, ultimately, even if you have been living in a manner that makes it seem like your entire relationship and being, in essence, is a facade, the real you is still peeking through in different moments. And I expect the people in your life that know you intimately can recognize those parts of yourself versus the ones that are there as a protection mechanism and a wound from the trauma that you've sustained. So, yeah, like collect your friends. Decide who you can trust with processing this. You can't go it alone. I think part of the journey of this is vulnerability and allowing people into your heart and getting them to move forward with you on a way that you're supported and loved in a way that you've never truly experienced before, a love and compassion that will wake you up to how good life can be when you are actually just being, instead of being stuck in a state of fight or flight, um, or being stuck in, hypoarousal or hyperarousal, right? Um, or just watching everybody so that you are safe, right? Like there's going to be releasing of that and changing from somebody who has been so stuck and really probably kind of like pissed off, into somebody who is much more joyful and relaxed, something that you really deserve. And like I think what's really nice about this is like the color of the rainbow, right? And the color of the rainbow and the color of the rainbow, like literally you deciding and moving to go into this new place for yourself. And like, I want to see you take that action and move forward into a place where you're supported, and loved. So let's look at your oracle cards. Of course, I'm using the Terra Oracle deck. We have the Fennec Fox with Cunning. I have the Siamese with Mystery. I have the Weasel with Flexibility. I have the Rhino with Fear. The Great White with Power. And the Ibex with Authority. So let's actually start with the Ibex. Authority is key to developing trust. As humans, we tend to trust those who we see as figures of authority. To trust others, you must first trust yourself. The Ibex is a remarkable example of what is possible when you give others the authority to climb a little higher than we have before. Able to traverse a near completely vertical cliff, this animal's hooves allow it to reach the top of mountains that seem unscalable. Authority requires you not just to think, but to believe that you can achieve the impossible. The Ibex asks you to raise the bar for yourself and for those around you. Don't set your sights on the middle of the mountain, aim for the absolute peak. The ibex doesn't just hang out on mountains for the fun of it. Their hooves are adapted to this hostile geological mammoths for a specific purpose: to go somewhere that their opponents cannot. The ibex asks you to analyze why you are scaling a cliff. Is it to push yourself further or to push yourself farther from what lies at the base of the mountain? Be sure that you are heading towards something, not away from it. It's critical for you to be an authority figure in your own process. Make executive decisions in your life, call the shots, and don't apologize to yourself or to others. This is your mountain, take pride in it. Only you know the way to the top. Yes, all of that's true. Only you know what to release. Only you know what's plaguing you. Only you know you've been a bitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, only you know. Only you can take responsibility. Only you have the power. So definitely step into it and use that power to heal, right? Don't be plagued by the things that are in your mind. Actually transmute that and take yourself somewhere higher because you have somewhere to go that isn't where you've been, right? Right. So let's next look at this great white with the word power, which I think it's interesting that I passed it. Wait, did I? No, sorry. So this great white with power. Yes. There are few creatures in the animal kingdom that garner as much respect as the great white. What exactly makes this creature so fearsome? Many adaptations propel this apex predator to the top of the food chain. Beyond sheer size and a set of around 300 razor-sharp teeth. This animal is one of the few warm-blooded creatures in the ocean. The adaptation of a body temperature warmer than their environment is what provides their bodies with the amazing power needed for their survival. You are warmed up and full of energy, potential, and action. Acknowledge your power and your privilege. It is your responsibility to apply what you have been given to change your life and make the world a better place. The great white comes to us when we need to reflect on our relationship with power. The animal often conjures up scary images that ask, are you afraid of your own power? Fear around owning our full potential can come from a place that we don't fully understand. Frequently, anxiety around authority figures and power structures is connected to issues of respecting our own authority. When you feel comfortable owning yourself, your space, and your potential, your relationship with power around you will change. What or who have you allowed to let you question your own worth? You are a force to be reckoned with. When you respect your own power, others will follow it. So, in regard to the potential abuse that some of the people who are looking at pile number 3 right now have sustained, um, one of the ways that abuse can make us feel powerless is that it is designed to take away your power. And I think part of the healing cycle of undoing that trauma is, of course, um, um, taking your power back, right? Recognizing that inner authority that you have, taking your power back, right, around your actions and your decisions and what that looks like for you. I'm afraid that the microphone's going to turn off and everything that I'm saying will no longer be said. Um, so I think the authority and the power card is just two different ways of saying the same thing, right? Like, if you've had your power taken away, you've also had your self authority taken away, which takes away your power, which takes away your self authority. And it's like one side of the same coin that dictates sort of the same way that you'll act and react when it comes to taking responsibility for things, especially when it comes to taking responsibility for healing, because I think a lot of the times it's easier, right, to be that victim and to allow yourself to continue to suck, because sucking is easy because we know it. We know what it's like to suck. We've been doing it for a long time. And allowing ourselves to continue in that behavior is also giving our power away because we repeat the same patterns over and over again, and they keep us trapped in a particular um, role, right? And I don't think you're well suited for that role anymore. And I think that you're not well suited for that role anymore either. So let's look at this rhinoceros now with fear. Here's what our rhino friend looks like. The rhino isn't afraid to get down and dirty. This is because it has to. With tough skin, it is surprising to learn that they are also quite sensitive to the hot sun. Rolling around in mud helps these animals stay cool and keeps their skin from burning. Jump into your fears and do not be afraid to make a mess in the process. This card often hints that there is something you are attempting to avoid. Exposure therapy, submerging yourself in what scares you the most, will help you to realize that it's all in your mind, that what you're creating is your fear is not that that what that what is creating your fear is not as bad as what you have imagined it to be. Instead of avoiding issues in your life, roll up your sleeves and jump into the mud. Yes, absolutely. Healing sucks. I'm not going to say it doesn't suck. I think that having to revisit painful memories or relationships or past situations makes us feel really weak, because it can re-emerge, right, the feelings that we've had um, when we were going through those things. But that doesn't mean that you aren't strong enough to handle them now. You're a different person than you were then, and you aren't going to be controlled by those things anymore. And I think that once you realize that you're capable of conquering what's in your mind, that the release from that fear will be so rewarding that you're going to say to yourself, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I do this sooner? So let's look at the weasel. On page 202. I've never pulled this weasel card before. With flexibility. Okay. Okay, the weasel is one flexible animal, so flexible in fact that it lives pretty much all over the world, from South America to Japan. You name the habitat and the weasel probably lives there. When your habitat changes, are you willing to adapt and thrive? Or when things change, do you become stiff and stubborn? The weasel enters your reading when flexibility will be a necessity if you want to make it through the many curves and bends in the road ahead. If you can only move in only one direction, you won't get there. The path ahead requires nuance to traverse sharp turns. Don't get too attached to one place and be ready and willing to chart a new course. Yes, I'm reading that things additionally may not go your way and that things come up and have to be dealt with in a particular way, and that additionally there will probably be setbacks and heartbreaks and things that make you feel like healing is worthless. And that is just the road of healing, you know, it just is that way. So deal with it like a fully developed human being, one person, instead of like succumbing to your fears. And like this is where therapy is great, right? Because I think that being in therapy, particularly if your therapist is good, let's say for example you're going to trauma therapy and you are going through EMDR and you're dealing with a memory and you have processed the memory and you don't feel like it sucks as much anymore, but then you realize you have all these other fears associated with the memory that don't have anything to do with the memory. You can say, hey, this thing happened to me, and now I'm really feeling that I have a lot of fear surrounding doing this thing because of the memory, even though the memory isn't bothering me anymore. What can we do about it, etc., etc. um, Vulnerability, honesty, flexibility, adaptation, like the ability to roll with the punches and accept the setbacks, as well as the forward momentum that is healing, because healing is not a straight road, buddy. It's not a straight road. And I think that that is true when it comes to your reading. So next we are going to look at the Fennec box with the word cunning. You may need to ask yourself if you are being cunning, lurking through shadows. Why and what are you hiding? What could you be, consciously or unconsciously, keeping secret? The fennec fox is a nocturnal creature that will avoid the harsh heat of the sun by roaming around at night. Why are you avoiding the heat? What are you keeping from the light of day? Sometimes we can look into the darkness so long that our eyes begin to adjust. What once looked dim and dark begins to make sense. When the light comes on, don't you want to be you don't want to be startled at what has transpired around you. Be perceptive and make sure that you aren't, most of all, deceiving yourself. Absolutely. And I think that speaks to things that I've said before, excuse me, in regard to abuse and being the victim and feeling like you've been this person for so long and it's probably just easier to continue to be this person. But I gotta tell you, it isn't. And the older you get, the harder it is to deal with. And it's really for not only for you to deal with, but for the people around you to deal with. And we want to see you having good relationships and being loved and feeling secure in your own body and in your own space. And there's no way around it, unfortunately. So next we're doing the Siamese with Mystery. The Siamese beautiful ombre coat fades from light to dark. The color change indicates the distribution of heat across their bodies. Lighter parts of their body are warmer, and cooler parts become darker. Treading between light and dark, you are reminded to always follow the light. If you begin to wander too far into unseen realms, there's a risk of getting lost in the weeds of illusion. Don't let where you are and where you're going become a mystery. This card encourages you to enjoy the unseen, but keep a compass. It can hint at irrational thoughts, feelings, and ideas. Getting lost in fantasy can include an addiction to detaching, leaning too heavily on methods of escape. What acts as your compass? Be careful that you haven't unplugged from your reality. Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of this reading is also describing not only just the plagues of what it's like to be unhealed, but also, and I'm probably applying part of this because this is my experience, but post-traumatic stress disorder or potentially complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and being in fight or flight, and having to deal with always being on and trying to make sure that you're safe and controlling things and dictating plans and not going out and exploring new things because you're afraid that you won't be safe, or you're afraid that you're going to look stupid, or you're afraid that people are going to perceive you in a way that you don't want to be perceived. And all of those things are absolutely hindering the ability for somebody to grow and to feel safe and to have space in their life to just be themselves. Because what that also means is that when you're alone, you're also not yourself. And that's really dangerous, because when can you be yourself? Who is yourself? When is yourself? Figuring out those questions are really important. So I would encourage you, pile number 3, that you find out who can help you. And I think it should be a trusted authority member, like a leader in this field, someone who can help you with processing trauma and understanding who you are underneath all of that. And I also want to say that sometimes when we go through things and we start healing and we have healed the parts of ourselves that throw temper tantrums or disassociate or depend on using substances to feel comfortable, the newness of this stability can be very jarring and can make us feel even more unsafe and even more unsure, because we've never been this person before. The only thing we've ever had is the trauma and the safety of our trauma reactions. And I think that it is important to understand that, and that it's okay to experience that, and that that is also a really important thing that needs to be spoken about when you are going through trauma therapy. I'm pretty sure that's all I have for pile number 3. Good luck on your journey, and please tell me what resonated with you in the comments below. I would really appreciate it. And as always, please like and share and subscribe. Thank you so much. My name is Angelina. I'm your Authenticity Witch. Bye.